Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, we have three ginormous Xbox stories to get into. We're talking Doom the Dark Ages and the sequel. Well, not really, but kinda. We're going to break into the DLC and what the director of Doom the Dark Ages had to say. We're also going to be getting into some big news from Starfield. There was a monster-sized info dump when it came to Starfield. We're going to be breaking that down. And there's been a lot of talk on the socials about Xbox, its doom and gloom, whether or not new leadership is going to be putting community first. Well, last Friday, there was a goodbye town hall meeting for Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. We have that story, exactly what she had to say about the future of first party, the future of exclusives, the future of hardware, and more importantly, what role the Xbox community is going to play in the decisions that they make. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that yes, of course, the shock is still felt through gaming that Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond are no longer with Xbox. But I got to tell you, I keep seeing and hearing exactly what I want to hear from Asha. And I think we are, as Xbox fans, are in for a serious change in perspective. We'll break all of that down. But of course, let's welcome in the awesome panel. Crispy Bomb, what's going on, my brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. One of our community members, Sir X-Man, he's apparently going through some stuff. Lemon, 108 Dragons TV, he let us know. Just send some prayers his way. Whatever's going on, obviously he's not going to share details, but just sending prayers Sir X-Man's way. But as far as gaming, I mean, we got a lot to talk about. I think there is possibility of a Dev Direct 2.0 coming,
Uh-huh.
and I believe the hints are there because we keep talking about Bethesda games that maybe it's Bethesda focus, but
Were
you
you
know,
watching yesterday's podcast with me and Fuzzy? Because that's exactly what
well,
I said.
it's almost like this first topic might be saying, hey, like there's a lot to show from them, and I'm sure they'll probably have some kind of interesting thing or surprise if they do that. But they keep throwing out hints, but we're gonna get into it.
We absolutely are. And Jamie Moran, what's going on, brother? How you feeling? This is another big week for gaming. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see Cyberpunk 2077 in Xbox Game Pass. What is this madness? How you feeling, brother?
Hey man, I'm happy. More people are going to get to play Cyberpunk. This past week I've actually been able to play a marathon.
Okay.
Let's
I
just say
saw your post on it. I saw that people actually had some real beef with what you said, but you broke it down. You weren't overly, I don't think you were overly critical at all. I think that you gave your pros and cons and, said what you said.
yeah, people net version of selective hearing. I had 5 pros, 5 cons, and people just looked at one specific con, locked in on it. But hey, those people are clowns. But hey, let's talk about some gaming.
Indeed, indeed. And obviously, Infinite Umbra should be joining us. If he's not, that means that Mr. Sandman got him, and he'll probably join us on Friday, as he normally does when he misses on a Tuesday show. But again, we'll wait for him to to enter or not. And of course, shout out to Sir X-Men. Again, I like Crispy was saying, I don't have the specifics, ladies and gentlemen, but Sir X-Men has been someone that you've seen in this chat for years. He's a good friend of the show, and whatever he's going through, of course, I do ask that the community respect his privacy. Hit him up on the socials and prayers up for Sir X Man. Hopefully, it's not too serious, and that he can come back to talking and playing about games, something that we all know he loves to do. And he's a good dude, folks. So of course, whatever he's going through, let's hope that he makes a speedy recovery or things turn around rather quickly. And of course, shout out to Lemon 108 Dragons TV for bringing it to our attention. But Gentlemen, I want to talk about Doom the Dark Ages. Now, this is what's on your screen. And quite frankly, it's one of my favorite games of last year. I know that there were a lot of people said it didn't sell as well as some of the previous ones. It's highly regarded by many people in the community. Dropped into Xbox Game Pass day and date. I got both controllers. I got the Doomslayer helmet. I went crazy on this thing. And even more so than that, I got almost every achievement but one. So today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, comes the way of a story that I pulled from PureXbox.com, and it was written by Ben Carey yesterday, just before noon at 11:45 a.m. And it's titled "Doom: The Dark Ages." Director says upcoming DLC is like a sequel, and he goes on to have an additional quote: "Just know it's freaking huge." So the DLC, which I don't have the name of as of now, we're going to get into the story live on the air, apparently is as big as Doom the Dark Ages, the game. So the director is basically calling it a sequel in the form of DLC. So let me read a little bit from the article, and we're going to get the guy's opinion on it, because I think that this game is probably the best in the series, personally. One of the things that I did like that they took away from the second one, or the sequel to the original 2016 Doom, was the platforming. The platforming was a little much, to be honest with you, in the second, or the follow-up to Doom 2016. And I do like how hulking they made the Doomslayer. Like, if you'll see in the footage that there's times where you jump off like a cliff and you land like the Incredible Hulk. It just decimates everything. Everything just jumps up into the air. Like, you do like this big thing, this big hulking thing. And that's one of the things. They made him scary. They made him this brute. I loved what they did with him. I love the story. I loved what they did with the flying aspects of it. I know some people were like, oh, I don't really like it because it's not Doom. Folks, try new things. It's okay. It's okay to try new things. Maybe you don't like them, but it's certainly okay to try new things. And I do like the fact that you had multiple fights in these giant mechs. I thought it was freaking awesome. But here's some excerpts from the article written by, once again, Ben Carey of PureXbox.com. Goes on to say this: believe it or not, it's been almost a year since Doom the Dark Ages released on Xbox Game Pass, and prior to launch, Bethesda and ID Software promised a campaign expansion for some time after its release. While that add-on hasn't been revealed yet, it's definitely in development and sounds like it's going to be a substantial piece of DLC when it eventually comes out. Speaking on a recent Slayers Club live stream via Games Radar, Doom the Dark Ages director Hugo Martin talked about the gap from the main game launch to the upcoming DLC, and how the expansion is, quote, massive and like a sequel to the Dark Ages in a lot of ways. Here's that quote, folks. Again, shout out to Ben Carey for all of this information. So the director, Hugo Martin, says this, ladies and gentlemen: it's massive. Look, guys, I know it's been ultimately a while since we shipped the main game, and you're waiting for the DLC. But just know that it's freaking huge. It's basically a sequel. I mean, that's what it feels like. It's ginormous. His words, folks. In addition to the story, and this is what they go on to say, what feels like a DLC that's quite large in scope, Martin also mentioned that the expansion is nothing like the main Dark Ages campaign, hinting that the team will be heading in a fairly different direction when its upcoming add-on is released. We're excited to see that in action, and well, guess what, folks? So am I. Let's bring in Crispy Bomb. Crispy, this is big news, because whether it's a paid sequel or it's just something that's added to Game Pass, I'm in day one. Now, more than likely, it's probably going to be an upgrade if you didn't, because I don't remember if there was a $100 edition that gave you the eventual sequel. But I want to get your thoughts and whether or not you're excited to see what they do with the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it's Doom, and Eternal, and that's when you refer to the second one. Eternal was fun, for a period of time, and then it got redundant. And I agree with you. Like, the platforming style that it had was a little too much at times. It really, like, and I understand challenging people, but challenging people in fighting enemies and challenging people in just getting to the next area are two different things. So I hope they don't try to add that. What I have played of Dark Ages has been really good. I do enjoy, especially, being barely able to see out of my right eye, some of the slider abilities and stuff like that. Obviously, I still want it to be challenging, and I think it gives you the option to do that. This is giving me like, hey, like, you haven't finished the game. You haven't even gotten halfway through. How about picking it up again? Vibes. Little teaser there because it's in Game Pass, and there's always a game that you can play, and it could be a different genre and everything else. So I trust, like, I think they're gonna put out something that's incredible. They've been cooking for DLCs for them. I mean, it's around a year, so maybe at some point at the end of the year, something like that. This gives me the vibes that we keep getting teased a bunch of stuff from Bethesda. Is there something coming as a, we'll say Direct 2.0 from them? Because we continue to get hints that they have a lot in the pipeline as far as major IPs, but also hopefully some kind of, shadow drop or something that's surprising. That said, I mean, people will point at sales or this or that. Doom is Doom, and they made a great Doom game with Doom to Dark Ages. And I think whatever they add, they have thought about it profusely and just said, okay, we're going to go slightly in this direction a little more. Do I think that they are going to challenge the players? Probably, because it's a Doom game and they're going to want to at least give that option to challenge. So we'll see. We'll see if there's more, just craziness involved. Maybe, newer flying mechanics. You don't know what they could do with this, but it is being as big as the original game. I mean, that says it all. I mean, if they charge, $20-$30 or it drops straight into Game Pass, we have something to play.
Listen, the game was amazing, and each iteration from Doom 2016 to Eternal to the Dark Ages, it got better. The Dark Ages, well, it was dark, Jamie Moran, and I gotta be honest with you, they did something with the combat that I thought could never go away, and that's the shield. The shield and the way that you threw it like Captain America was freaking awesome. And just like Master Chief and the grappling hook, I don't know if the next Halo, if it doesn't have it, it's going to feel weird. Now, granted, I know that the next Halo technically won't have it, but it's Combat Evolved, folks. So, of course, it's not going to have it. I'm talking about the future of Halo. It would be weird not to have the grappling hook. Same thing here. So, when they make mention in the story by Ben Carey of Pure Xbox, and they talk about them moving away from what Dark Ages was, I don't really have concern because I am all about trying new things, and I don't mind them. Like I said, it's Doom. Like literally what Crispy said, it's Doom. I don't really think that they could get it wrong. You're going to be destroying things, killing things, ripping things apart. So I don't know where they're going to go. I will say with caution, to mirror what Crispy says, I hope they don't go back to the platforming aspect, because that, to me, in Eternal, wasn't it was my least favorite thing. And there were certain instances where the platforming was like controller throwing ridiculous. I wouldn't throw a controller because those things are $70, but you get the Hulk rage. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. But am interested to get your thoughts on this, Jamie. Again, the DLC, there's no release date. There's not even a name of it. But with all of that said, it will be released this year. And we're going to back end this conversation with something that Crispy said about a direct, but we'll get there in a second. What are your thoughts on the DLC being as big or maybe even as bigger than Doom the Dark Ages?
Well, yeah, I really believe it. And it just occurred to me last night that shocker, I'm going to talk about the 7th gen for a second before I get to my point. We used to get expansions for single player games multiple times in a year.
Yep.
Like I've talked about this before. Fallout 3 had 5 expansions in 8 months. Right? Crazy if you think about it. But I've noticed this generation, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I've noticed some developers are leaning towards having, rather than just a bunch of smaller expansions, they'll have one big one. So you have Phantom Liberty with Cyberpunk, which is basically a game-sized expansion. You have Blood and Wine for The Witcher 3, which is essentially a whole other Witcher game. So I kind of believe that with this because, it's going to be the only expansion for the game. And considering what ID Software is like, they'll listen to feedback. The platforming in Eternal wasn't really the most popular thing. But in Doom the Dark Ages, the best part about that game, when you're not in a mech or flying a dragon, you're basically on a wide open battlefield fighting a ton of different enemies with cool weapons and a shield. And who would have thought putting a shield in a Doom game would work? But it does. So they're probably just going to lean into that. And, they opened up the universe so much with that game. Because Doom's always been, go to Mars, go to hell, back and forth type thing. They completely changed the game with Doom the Dark Ages. They gave it science fiction lore, straight to my heart. I loved it. So like I believe it. And when it comes to ID Software, it takes them a long time to make their games. And if this is a game size expansion, they probably had a team working on it before the game even came out, which is what you tend to have with a lot of big expansions. But yeah, I'm excited. I think Doom fans should be excited. If I was a betting man, I would say I think this expansion will be out by the summer, just because it's going to be a stacked year, and I feel like it's time.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good landing spot for it. Because when did it release last year? Was it May of last year that it came out, or was it the
May.
summer? Oh, okay, so it was May. Okay, so look, again, you're right. Whether it happens 1 year to the release, which of course would be May to May, or it's something that is dropped, and shown off. Maybe this is one of the big pieces of the June showcase, right? They show it off, available today, go, and everybody goes download it, and it's as big as something like Blood and Wine, which again, I have not a big Witcher fan. You know that. I know the Virtual Tomato is going to come out, but I have heard nothing but incredible things about, more specifically, Witcher's Blood and Wine expansion, which was, like you said, bigger than the actual game. And that's what it sounds like we're going to get again. So I am definitely here for it. I think Doom the Dark Ages is a franchise. Well, Doom is a franchise that I want to continue to see get sequels. If a sequel comes in the form of DLC, I am totally okay with that. But obviously, I mean, it's a classic IP. It's not going anywhere. But gentlemen, what I want to do is, before we kind of you know what? Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to talk about something that Crispy Bomb made mention of. He's talked about a possible event happening in the form of a direct. Now, let's follow some breadcrumbs here, folks, right? We heard last month that, and it's a rumor, folks, not confirmed, that Xbox was considering, and this rumor came the way of Jez Corden of Windows Central. I will add that story. I got to go and find it, but I will add that story to the show notes so you can see exactly where the breadcrumbs started. Jez reported that there could be, Microsoft was considering another Dev Direct. Now, at this point, we had no idea what it was. And then yesterday, Fuzzy Belvedere and I specifically talked about it. I think it was on the second topic where we kind of went into a little bit detail about how this could logistically be a Bethesda direct. And here's why it makes sense, folks. Now, of course, the next topic we're going to segue into is going to be about Starfield and the incredible bonkers like information that has been put out there. We're going to get into all the specifics on the back end of this conversation. But keeping it a buck with Doom, this is why it makes sense. Okay. So, Doom the Dark Ages, we get this, all of a sudden out of nowhere, they start talking about, hey, listen, guys, we know that you're waiting. Here's what we got. The DLC is as big as the game, might be even bigger. It's freaking huge. Right. So that's breadcrumb number one, Crispy. And of course, there's been rumors that Fallout 3 remake could be shadow dropped at some point this year. Well, if it's a Bethesda-led direct, it kind of lines up that you would get a opening segment of what they're doing with Doom the Dark Ages and its expansion. You could get a Fallout 3 remake shadow drop. And one of the stories we covered yesterday is Iron Galaxy did a real crazy tease on the socials. And they said, hey, we're meeting today to talk about what we're currently working on and our next project. And it's the Fallout New Vegas like circle screen. And I'm like, oh my God. So that could also be announced at this direct. But the main draw of a direct could be Starfield. It's, no longer 2.0. It's upgraded Starfield, whatever they're going to call it. The DLC that's supposed to launch this year, and the announcement for PlayStation 5 and its release potentially for the rumor of April. This sounds like a show that I think would go over really well with the fans. It's a show that I would be very happy to witness. I want to get your thoughts on your suggestion that we could be getting this direct in March, by the way.
Now, could it be full on just Bethesda? Absolutely. Could it be a multitude? Sure. I mean, we're talking about games that, have hinted even last year at, doing updates, but not really showing us anything. So now they're hinting again, and we're getting to the point where you got to stop hinting at some point. You know what I mean? You got to show, what you're working with. People know what I'm talking about, but it's one of those things like you don't hear from Bethesda much, and then all of a sudden you start hearing it, and you start seeing it's a splash screen. Could them just be playing around? But I don't know why they would put, please stand by, and it clearly looks like New Vegas. Even just like, hey, we're working on it. It could be that simple, and people would get excited. We've heard the rumors, but we haven't had them completely confirm anything. So even just, saying it would be something. That said, a lot of people have speculated about other games that could be there. If it's just a Bethesda, I don't see a problem with it. I think, showing the improvements of games, especially when you're going to come out with a DLC or, in Starfield's case, launch it on another platform, it makes total sense because we want to see gameplay. I think we've established this, that the dev directs have done something really well. They've shown us the improvements. They've shown us what they're working on, whether it be an old new IP or whatever it is. It gives people something to look at and say, okay, this game interests me because I'm seeing what it's about, the gameplay, other such things. It makes total sense for me to, sub to Game Pass or purchase outright. And these are the options we lovely have at Xbox, like you sometimes get some discounts, stuff like that. And it just makes sense for Bethesda, especially, to want to do this because they want to, even for the people that haven't played Doom the Dark Ages, say, hey, like this is here also. You can get it for the same price and you get the DLC. Because in this world that we live in, people forget easily. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I forgot about that game. Because there are so many great games coming out in these, especially these past 2 years. Why not, shed some light on what's already there, plus give them something else to purchase? It's a great marketing ploy, and honestly, it does work. I mean, just look at the Fallout TV series and how it reinvigorated people to play the Fallout games. These are marketing tactics that we've wanted from Xbox. We want them to say, hey, like this is here, but also we got this added on. And hopefully it's a little less than a full price, but for those people that haven't purchased Doom the Dark Ages, now you have an extra incentive. You waited for a reason, if you want to look at it that way. And I'm for consumerism. Save the money where you can. I save it through Game Pass. You don't have to. You can do it whatever way you want. And I think that's the one thing that people ignore. Like we always have those options, but we also have that option of Game Pass and getting these games right in. Now, for a Game Pass subscriber, I would expect, if they're not going to just release it, which they've done with a lot of DLC, by the way, but if they're not going to release it directly into Game Pass, somebody like me who purchased the collector's edition, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get it, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't look it up. At the end of the day, if I threw them $20, I'm not going to be like super mad about it, but I bought the collector's edition. I'm pretty sure I get all the DLC and everything else. So, for those people that did that, or the ultimate edition, or whatever you want to call it, I would expect them to at least give you that. So in hindsight, it would make total sense for Bethesda to just have like a little, even if it's only a half an hour, I don't know, like it just gets some hype back in. We've had a lot of news that's like, nah, but Bethesda's kind of agnostic. Like at this point, I say, you know what, if Bethesda releases everything on PlayStation and that's the way it goes, and like we only get the Xbox games, dude, let's have some clarity and let's see what it takes. And it's Starfield, Doom, they all deserve they're really good games. Are they great? I don't know. That depends on who you talk to. But are they good enough to deserve all of this? Absolutely.
And I agree. I think Bethesda themselves has a bunch of games in development. We talked about this, I think, more times than I could possibly remember, Jamie Moran. They're in one of the most unique positions in gaming. Like not just as Xbox, but I'm talking about in gaming. They have 3 super big popular franchises that everybody wants to play and everybody wants sequels, right? So the Elder Scrolls 6 in full on production. Maybe we get it 28, maybe we get it 29. Who knows at this point? But also Starfield. Is there going to be a Starfield MMO? Is there going to be a Starfield, just instead of a, traditional number 2 pause, will they actually just continue to get like expansions to kind of blow out the world, so to speak, the universe? Is Doom going to get a sequel sooner than later? I'm not Doom. Again, just speaking about Bethesda themselves, right? And the 3 bigs. You have Elder Scrolls, you have Starfield, and what else do you have? Well, Fallout. Fallout is the red herring here. Because folks like me do not want to play Fallout 76. Sorry. It's not what I want for Fallout. I know that if you spend the money, and potentially it's going to be something added to Game Pass, another story that Jess Gordon talked about adding value to it, and it's called Fallout Worlds, where in Fallout 76 it gives you the ability to kind of lock the world just to yourself. First of all, I'm not paying for anything extra. That's number 1. Number 2, I don't really care for 76 is good, but it's not what I want. I want the traditional Fallout 5. If I can't get that, give me Fallout 3 Remake or Fallout New Vegas Remake, or both, because I'm greedy. I'm a greedy gamer like that. and give us the Oblivion treatment, at some point I'm good, right? I can play through 3, I can play through New Vegas and really enjoy, because it's going to look incredible, just like Oblivion did. And that could hold me over until 5, when 2030, 2031, whatever. But kind of just circling the wagons here, Jamie Moran, we could get a direct, and it could be a Bethesda-based one, because, again, very much like what Crispy already said, they do have a lot in the pipeline. And if you just take a step back and see what they could do for just this year, and what they could do and what they could actually announce at this direct, I think the main attraction here is Starfield, right? Not taking anything away from Doom or the other Fallout remakes, but Starfield, because of its, they did some things with it to make the game more, I guess, friendlier. They're not calling it a 2.0, even though I still am, and that's fine. But they have an expansion coming out we've all been waiting for. That's taken a little bit longer than I thought it would. And of course, its release on PlayStation 5 is a big deal. Now, maybe not a big deal for anyone that's currently playing it, because you're playing it on PC or on Xbox, but it's a big deal for Bethesda because they get to sell this game. And it's a game that I think is going to sell super, super well on PlayStation 5. So you use this, possible direct for Starfield. You bring in what they're doing with Doom, The Dark Ages, and it's ginormous, according to the director, DLC. That's as big or bigger than the game itself. And then you shadow drop Fallout 3 Remake, and then you announce that Iron Galaxy is working on Fallout New Vegas. I think that if that lines up, and that's what it is, my God, talk about a year of Xbox. What are your thoughts on this, man?
If they do have another direct soon, which it looks like they could be, the reason why I think it would be a Bethesda leaning one is simply because I don't think they would have a lot of Bethesda stuff throughout their summer showcase when you can have a direct that's just dedicated to them. Yep. You have the Starfield stuff that's going on around at the minute, which we're going to be talking about, which, whenever Starfield stuff has been shown off, it has really been at a direct type thing. The other thing is obviously the Doom, The Dark Ages expansion. I know a lot of people have been waiting on that. And if it is a game-sized expansion, then they have a lot to go over. And, well, let's be honest, a direct would be the best way to talk about that. Talk about the game for like 15 minutes, show a bit of it off. Another one people aren't really talking about is Wolfenstein.
Yes, Wolfenstein dude. Holy crap, yes.
Yeah, they started hiring for motion capture artists not long ago. So it looks like they are, deep into development in that game. I love Wolfenstein, can't wait. So I don't think they'd show that off yet, by the way. I think they'll just announce it. Because we don't know how far along it is, but like considered as Bethesda, and they don't really have any qualms about showing a logo off and like a short teaser. I'm guessing that could be a thing. But also Fallout. Like Fallout's been on a lot of people's minds for months. A lot of us, including myself, have been waiting eagerly for the Fallout 3 remaster or remake, whatever you want to call it. And look, over the past 6 months, a lot of people have thought, "Hey, it's gonna happen now. It's gonna happen," and it never did. Right? It never did. But like, if you're gonna have a Bethesda-centric direct, and you don't have Fallout there, especially how well the season 2 of the Amazon show did, I don't know what they're thinking. But you did have Iron Galaxy the other day post, an image on LinkedIn of them working in the office, and there was, Fallout New Vegas art in the background. So it looks like, and considering they did work on the Tony Hawk remakes, it's not really out of the realm of the possibility that they could be working on them. So, so I think Fallout, 3, New Vegas remastered, Wolfenstein teaser, a huge Skyrim segment, because we don't know what a lot of this stuff is. Although I will say this, people getting the hopes up for a 2.0 thing out of nowhere based on nothing has made my mind wonder why. Right? There's been no leaks about a 2.0. There's been nothing about a 2.0. It's just people latched on to a 2.0 thought of saying, hey, Cyberpunk did this, even though, it had all of these issues at launch and it was fixed. and then we got 2.0 a year later, and people just have this Mandela effect thing with Cyberpunk. So I could go on about that all day. Seriously, the Mandela effect thing with Cyberpunk 2077 makes me want to jump out the window, right? Because the amount of conversations I've had online with people that say, "Oh, they fixed Cyberpunk with 2.0." No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They fixed it the week Elden Ring came out. Anyway, I'm ranting. Fallout, not Fallout stuff there, but Starfield. Look, Starfield. They've even said there's going to be more space-centric stuff. Space battles, maybe EVAs where you actually exit your ship in zero G. That would be cool. But I think if people are fans of Bethesda in general, I think it should be a good show. Although if it is going to be early March, we should be finding out fairly soon. But yeah, that's basically what I think. And you mentioned the Fallout 76 thing. The fact that you can play that solo, but you have to pay for it, is a bit weird.
Yeah.
And I get it. It started off as an online, MMO-ish experience, and this is an option, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why you'd have to pay for that feature. It just seems a bit weird. But I've been waiting for the next generation upgrade, which we could be seeing, by the way, also at the Direct. But yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, it's good points all around. And yes, you do have to pay for it, but hopefully for not much longer. Again, Jez Corden had reported that after there's a lot of changes, sweeping changes, as it's been referred to, coming to Xbox and specifically Xbox Game Pass. Now, not in the sense of, hey, we're going to price people out, or we're going to raise the price again. No, this according to Jez Corden, they want to add value to the $30 Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And how would they do that? Well, they could do that through adding WoW, which is something Jez would love, and I also think it's brilliant, to be honest with you, because if they did add WoW to it, people that pay for WoW would just pay for Game Pass. And not only would they get, World of Warcraft, but they would get everything else as a side dish, which would be crazy. So you'd get thousands of new subscribers, and they're like, wait a second, there's games outside of WoW. My God, okay, I'm subscribing. And maybe they won't. Again, only time would tell. But Fallout 76, what do they call it? Something Worlds is what it's called. Fallout Worlds, I believe that's the name of it. Give you the ability to, play a true single player, but in an MMO. And it closes off the world to everyone but you. I guess you can invite friends in also, something to that effect. But I just want a traditional Fallout game. That's what it is. I don't care if it's 3 remake. I don't care if it's a New Vegas remake. I don't even care if it's 5, but you got to give me something before 2031. I'm sorry. I don't want to wait that long. But we're going to segue into keeping it a buck about Bethesda. We're going to segue into all of the information that comes the way of Shinobi 602, who had some really interesting things to say on Reddit. We're going to break that down. And of course, thank you to Idle Sloth, who has all of the breakdown of what Shinobi had to say. But let's welcome in Infinite Umbra. What's going on, brother? How you feeling? Welcome back.
Hey, good morning, Boom. Good morning, fellas. Good morning, chat. Yes, Sin. Yes, Satanist. I am here.
They're wondering if the Sandman got you. They had concern for you, sir.
He tried to hold on to me like those creatures in Resident Evil Requiem, but I got away.
Game here so far. Wow.
I am loving it. I had FOMO, so I decided to just get in because people kept talking about it. I'm like, you know what? The circles I'm in, I'm like, let me just play it. And I hate playing games out of order.
Cosmos says, oh my, Infinite Slumber was, quote, defeated.
Oh, no. I defeated it this time.
Yes, you did. You're here.
Yeah. This time I win. But yeah, everybody was talking about it in my inner circles and such like that. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and just get on this game.
How far have you gotten before we get into the...
Not super far. Okay. How do I describe it? The medical center, basically.
Okay. Right? Okay. So that's kind of early. That's early in the game. Yeah.
I will say, I'm playing it on PC, so I'm playing it on a 4080 Super. Game looks magnificent. It's easily one of the best looking games I've ever seen. It's crazy how good this game looks, and it's like not just from just Unreal or anything like that. I'm talking about I'm talking about like lighting and things like that are just insanely detailed and well done.
The ambiance it does its job because it makes it very creepy. And what I love about it is it's really two games. You are this incredible action hero. You're basically John Wick in the game because he's destroying and kicking everyone's ass.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, there's the survival horror aspect of it where you're so vulnerable that you're afraid to go around the corner because you know the gun you have sucks and it's not going to do anything. So, yeah, there's all of that in a bag of chips.
Yeah, they gave old Grace the old we like to call it the horror movie cliche run.
Yeah.
Where she barely feels like she's running. And when she does run,
yes,
if you look at the third person,
I've yelled at the screen. Come on, turn around already.
I'm playing hers in first person and playing Leon's in third. But I might have to switch because
I went to all third person, to be honest.
When I've seen it with her in third, and she's stumbling and bumbling all over the place. I'm like,
she really is.
How do you? She's doing literally the horror movie tropes. I'm like, girl, if you don't get your tail up and run like you want to live,
problems, as the kid would say.
But other than that, I mean, the game is ridiculously gorgeous. Like I said, the sound design is really good too. I had it on my headphones at first when I first played it, and I'm like, what is that? What's that noise? It was her hyperventilating.
Yes.
I'm like, is that a monster around the corner? I'm like, oh, it's me. Okay. But it's really good.
I hope that the voice actress for her wins the award. Again, it's still early in the year, but my God, her performance is so believable. Again, I know we went on a little bit of a tangent, but again, we got to get to Starfield.
Yes.
So this is what we're going to get into. So let me bring up the notes here because it's important for context before we bring in Crispy Bomb, of course, now Umbra and Jamie Moran. So Shinobi 602, who is verified, by the way, on Reddit, was people were asking questions regarding Starfield, and he simply says, since this keeps coming up, that's all next month, meaning in April. Okay, so let me bring up some of the for context, folks, some of the things that will be going on with the update for Starfield. Let's just call it that. So Idle Sloth wrote, according to Shinobi 602, we will be getting Starfield news sometime this month for March. And this is what is expected to be delivered in regards to its information. They're going to be talking about the new expansion. The Terran Armada storyline is rumored to be what the DLC will be surrounding. You'll be returning to Earth, and here are some of the new features: new enemy types, quality of life updates, improved space exploration and combat, new ships and fleet mechanics, improved shipbuilding. There are going to be some updates, pretty big updates to the creation engine, reduced loading screens, improved maps, which, yes, they absolutely needed to fix that. Better blending of points of interest with overhauled exploration. Of course, they mention here, or Shinobi mentions, the port to PlayStation 5, and there will be a Pro edition as well, and a ridiculous amount of bug fixes. Now, the rumor, according to Shinobi 602, is that the game will be releasing specifically April 7th, 2026. Now, of course, we just segued from what we thought would be a direct happening. And this is more evidence, ladies and gentlemen, as to why I honestly believe, and this is not anything I have heard, this is me and my personal opinion, Crispy Bomb, it really does line up why you would need, not want, a Starfield Direct or a Bethesda Direct that talks about Starfield for two reasons. One, you're going to go into detail of what this upgraded Starfield looks and acts like for current players, which I think is important. For players who have been following and playing Starfield since it launched in 2023, we're going to get an update on the expansion, which is awesome. this would also be a really, really, really big opportunity for Bethesda to welcome in the PlayStation 5 gamers, because like I said, I know people don't want to hear it, but it's going to be a big deal for PlayStation. Not the trolls, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about PlayStation gamers who've been waiting, who don't have an Xbox, who their main console of play is PlayStation. They've been waiting for this. Bethesda's going to make a lot of money. They're going to get the upgraded version, whatever the so-called 2.0 is, even though people don't want to call it that, and that's fine. But you'd also be getting like the Game of the Year edition. They're going to get Starfield. They're going to get all the upgrades, all the fixes. They're going to get the first DLC and the second DLC, and it's going to sell like hotcakes on PS5 and PS5 Pro. There's no doubt about it. With all of that said, this is where you usher in. They can talk about Doom. They can talk about Fallout. They can talk about Wolfenstein, like Jamie brought up. Let me get your thoughts on the list of things, and it's quite an arm's length worth of things that they've fixed or have fixed in Starfield. What are your thoughts on this, Crispy Bomb?
Well, from that, which I've read, obviously, but just for the chat that may not have read it, the first part to me is a return to Earth. Because I went to Earth, and this is where it lost me. There was nothing.
There's nothing there. Yeah, barren.
There's nothing there. And it's almost like, hey, clean slate right here. It's logical completely, because the one thing I've always looked at Bethesda and said, your games are so far in between time spaces that in all technical purposes, you could make a quote unquote Marvel universe from your games. Like, you could take Skyrim, for example, and lead it into Fallout, for example, which then would lead into Starfield, for example. Is that going to happen? No. But when I went to Earth and there was nothing there, it turned me off completely. It's like, we live on Earth. Hello. Like, can we actually, give some love to the planet that we live on within Starfield? And there was none. Like, yes, there was procedural generated stuff that showed up, nothing more. And I could tell it was procedural generated, because guess what? I was such a low level and they were such a high level that it was completely that. Now, did I follow the story and all this? That's the beauty of Bethesda games. You do what the hell you want. And they gave me that. But I also sat there and said, well, what am I fighting for? I don't know yet. Maybe they give us that thought process. Maybe they finally, because the Terra Armada, that's kind of what I went through the museum and all these other things. Like, I got into the game for a minute, and then I went to Earth as soon as I could, and I saw nothing. Not a damn thing. And that made me kind of mad. So I'm one of those people that I get into the stories, especially in hardcore RPGs. That's what it is. Like, if you're a PlayStation gamer right now, you love, even I would say Fallout 4 would probably be a logical step. If you don't like that, you might not like Starfield, because there's so many systems and so many different ways. And Fallout 4 is just a small bit of what they are able to do with Starfield. If you're worried about, flying your plane into, or, your spaceship into the atmosphere, that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about, hey, can we look at the planet that clearly they have shown is where we came from and not act like it's nothing? So it's one of those weird things that just turned me off. And I mean, I walked for a good hour and a half, and I saw no monuments. I saw no rubble. I just saw sand all day, every day. Now, did I land in the wrong spot? You could say absolutely fine. That's not the point. The point is it felt like an empty space. Like I'm walking through the Sahara Desert. I don't have time for this. And all these things that they're, the vehicles and all these other things that you can add, like this starts to become and build into a game where it's like, okay, now exploration feels interesting. Now I can upgrade my vehicle. These are all these things that I've been wanting that are starting to, come to fruition. Like, yes, do I enjoy flying through space? Did it feel great? Not to me, technically. That doesn't mean it didn't feel great to anyone else. But the fact is that I also want to explore the worlds, the planets that you try to build. And if it does involve procedural generated stuff, can we have some story involved in some of these planets? And I'm hoping that that's what comes from this. And I do want to see what they're working on, because obviously Starfield is not dead, or they would have X-nayed anything that has been rumored lately. And if it comes to PlayStation, me as a gamer, I don't care if it gets some new legs and some new eyes on it that says, hey, this game actually is really good. Do the upgrades, the stands are going to say, oh, you were just testing for us. For how many, 2 years now? Like, come on. We just want more. Okay. Like, that's the way I am as an Xbox gamer. I want more. Am I going to play it all? Probably not, but it's good to think about. And in this case, I want to love Starfield because it is a Bethesda game at its core, and I do love them. But you got to give me something better than some magical stuff. Like, give us some grounded, logical thinking for a second. And I really hope that's what this is going to be.
Well, I mean, listen, what they're doing with Doom, according to its director, is a little different than Dark Ages, which is, fine by me. Starfield's upgrade or updated Starfield is going to be very interesting because it's going to be, I think, more than anything, it's going to be a lot of quality of life stuff. Todd, when he was interviewed by Greg Miller of Kind of Funny, made mention of space travel. And again, this is me just, spitballing here, folks. I see people talking about it in the chat. I don't necessarily know if that space that he's talking about is landing and leaving a planet that you can do no longer, that it's going to be like a cutscene. We'll see. But I think a lot of people would like that if it does happen. But Jamie Moran, you are a big Starfield. Well, I mean, listen, you're a sci-fi nut. There's no doubt about it. So you are, I'm assuming, very excited for what's going to be happening with Starfield and its update. And more importantly, its announced DLC, which is, again, based on what we have in front of me, it's supposed to be about the Terran Armada and its storyline, which should be dope. What are your thoughts on what Shinobi 602 had to say? And does a potential April 7th launch or relaunch, if you will, because again, it's not 2.0. I know that Todd is not even calling it that. It's going to be an update for Starfield. It's going to be a lot of quality of life stuff, but it will be releasing for the first time on another platform. So it's kind of a relaunch. And if it does release on April 7th, I think and again, I know there's big changes coming to the marketing, folks. I got a video coming out later today, so check it out when it drops. But this would be a really big opportunity for Bethesda to put their best foot forward and sell this game on another platform and make a lot of money to keep franchises like Starfield, like The Elder Scrolls, like Fallout, and many others they're working on to keep going. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, so like last year, the Terran Armada was heavily hinted at by Bethesda on Twitter, and for people that haven't played it, I won't go into story details, but the reason why Earth's so barren, there's let's say a very big reason as to why the whole planet is just barren with a few structures. It makes sense in the story as to why it's so barren. Again, I won't spoil it for people. But the emphasis on the Terran Armada just it gives me some hope about the space-centric stuff, because I absolutely loved the space combat in that game and the zero-G stuff. In my opinion, that If the expansion was just that, I'd be happy. But there's things people have been wanting added, like quality of life improvements and stuff. And look, I think when it comes to story in that universe, they can do anything. I love the NASA-centric sci-fi where, like, by the way, whenever I talk about Starfield, there's always at least one person complaining saying, why isn't there aliens? It's like, it wouldn't make sense if you saw aliens in Interstellar, right? It's out of place. But I think a lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time. And look, I saw in chat a couple of times, and this is right. It takes a long time for Bethesda to make content, you know. The truth is, it's an industry-wide thing, right? We have to wait years for expansions these days. That's the unfortunate situation with the current state of game development. You want more complicated game systems with better graphics. Congratulations, we have 3-year dev cycles for an expansion. But yeah, there's a lot of people have been wanting like more story elements, more gameplay additions to this. Like I personally, I love Starfield, but there's one particular thing that I don't like about Starfield, and that's how New Game Plus works with your items. That's
yes.
Yeah, for people that don't know, like when Starfield came out, I discovered a way to get basically infinite ammo. And going into New Game Plus without my thousands and thousands of shotgun shells, I was heartbroken. I could have cried. But other than that, you know, I love the game. Expanding the story, you know, change how things work in New Game Plus, that type of thing. And look, with the last update they did 2 years ago with you know, how we got the little space buggy and stuff, and then the story expansion dropped. Like, there's so much they can do here. And then you look at the new platforms. Like, look, PlayStation's been rumored for a long time, right? I'm not going to make, you know, a massive deal about this. Like, look, people that have said the game's trash for years will all of a sudden like it, I'm sure. And people that have, you know, not said anything about it, they like sci-fi games, I hope they have a good time. Bethesda games tend to have long legs on them, and I think, you know, a game like Starfield, there's endless possibilities. I'm just excited to see what they do next, because again, it has been like a year and 4 months since the last expansion or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a while. I'm just excited to see new Bethesda single player content.
And I agree. Look, I put I'm being a little facetious. I put almost 6 days in, and that's kind of that's rookie time. Like, if you look at some of the hours and days that people have put into it, I would love to get back to it personally. I really thought that it was the best released Bethesda game ever, Umbra. I really loved the graphics. I thought that it getting the year delay that it did, right? It was important, and we got a really great product. Was it perfect? No, it had some issues. You know, you heard some people losing their saves, which is freaking terrible, but there were some things that they needed to fix. I know a lot of people did not like the idea of you not having control of your ship to go into orbit or down to a planet. I could care less, to be honest with you. But if you can do it now through the update, that's awesome. If that's something that they addressed. But again, there's a lot happening, and I do think a direct lines up with you needing to do this. Again, we know about Starfield here. The people on PC know about Starfield. They've been modding it for over 2 years. So you've gotten everything from the Millennium Falcon to something from Space 1999 from the 70s. So you've seen everything in there. But Umbra, I want to get your thoughts on some of the breakdown that Shinobi 602 talked about on Reddit. And of course, thanks to Idle Source, we have a breakdown here. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do next. I want to see what the update is going to look like. I'm very excited to see and potentially get involved with the Terran Armada. This is something that's been hinted. And I'm really excited to get back to Starfield. Let's get your thoughts, dude.
Yeah, Boom. I am excited for it in a way as well. I want to say that I'm much more like hyped, but there are honestly so many games and I don't want to say I have to get to, because it makes it sound like a chore, but there are so many games I want to get to that, you know what I mean? Like we have an overabundance of wealth right now in gaming. So it's tough for me to be like, I'm going to prioritize Starfield. Oh, I can't wait. Now, if they were quite saying like, because he's already come out, Todd Howard has said it's not a 2.0. it's just some good quality of life updates. Obviously, the DLC that might be dealing with the Starborn. That's cool. And a lot of the details that they're speaking of that Shinobi shared all sounds great. And I think it'll be great especially for first time players, right? But seeing as I have like 400 plus hours in the thing, it's probably not going to be like a revelation for me, right? Or for any of us here, I would imagine. But some of the things that you're speaking of, absolutely, I do like. Obviously, the updated DLC, the Terran Armada, which apparently is dealing with the Starborn. I would like to see what that means, what details that would entail, as far as that goes. How does that work? And it's saying returning to Earth, and I'm wondering how does that play out?
Exactly.
Maybe, because I don't want to say much if those who may not have played the game, but
ain't nothing there. I could say that much.
Yeah, it's looking kind of dusty right now. I just want to know how does that work? Now they can play it certain ways. Obviously, they can be underground bunker, blah blah blah.
I thought about that too. You know what's be crazy? What if it was like a Fallout level bunker, right? And it opens up and like, oh my god, is this some sort of a cross world situation happening here? I'd lose my shit.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. I mean, with the thing with you being a Starborn is that there's so many ways they can play that out, and they could have it where, some type, like for instance, in the main game, there's an anomaly that happens and a time distortion. One of my favorite missions.
Yes.
And they can have that where you travel through time to Earth before all these things happen, right? So there's ways they can do it. They can have it maybe if you go in and go forward in time, maybe where Earth has recovered and people have come back to fix things, right? Or to rehabilitate it or whatever, if you will. Like there's all types of ways they can do it. I don't know how they're going to do it here. But that I think that's interesting. It says new enemy types. I would like that, and this is said in the chat, and I have to agree with Cullen. And I know, and I do get it because to Judah's like, oh, go play that game, go play like Mass Effect. I do agree that I said this before when I played it. One of my critiques is I would have loved if we had actual intelligent alien life, sentient life that we came across, and not just beasts, right? And and I know it's a bit of the Mass Effect layover. I do know that. I understand that. So I do agree with Cullen. I would have liked that. But I also understand those who, much like Judah, as you know him, Boom, Lucius, he also had that same exact thought. And he's like, no, brother, go play that instead. I'm like, I don't want to play that. I want this in Starfield. Give me everything.
We're greedy gamers. I think we
greedy. I'm telling you,
understand that, right?
Yeah, people think I'm just saying it as a slogan. When we say it, we mean it. Me and you specifically. And I do want all those things in this game. Yeah, I want everything. But I understand those who are like, nah, that's not what this game is, and that's fair too. So I can't dictate what it is. It is apparently
strike 16.
Anyway, so yeah, I can't dictate what I would want to Todd Howard and crew, right? But I would have liked to actually have sentient alien life that we come across and talk, and they could still actually do that if they want. That's the beauty of Starfield. They can do that whenever they decide to. Like the game is made for that, where you can go again to different universes or to a different time frame. Maybe we will come across that, right? Who knows? Or maybe it's best for a sequel. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Set in a far, far distant timeline. They could do so many things with that. So I'm interested in that. The new ships and fleet mechanics. I want to know how that works out. And the lack of loading screens or reduced loading screens. That sounds good. The creation engine updates. I want to see what that is, because we're hearing Elder Scrolls, the newest Elder Scrolls will have the newest creation engine in it as well. So I want to see if we can get like an early look at how good it'll look in this case right here. Of course, no engine touches Unreal, as you all in the chat know. Yeah, why so serious? Yes, I'm speaking specifically to you today. Yeah, the whole new ship thing is cool too. One of my critiques, and I did love the shipbuilding in Starfield, and I felt so sick once I transitioned, if you will, Starborn wise, and lost everything I made. I was like, no.
Yes, not
and
good.
I found out, and I felt like so empty. I'm like, you took away all my ships. But so that said, I would like them to improve the modules on how you create the ships in Starfield, maybe in a sequel where they go further in depth, because like you can use mods on PC, obviously, where you can. I've had Star Wars ships, like literally. I had the Millennium Falcon, and I had other Star Wars ships that I flew around in, and it looks spectacular too. Believe me when I tell you. But I would love for them to have more ships that look more, how do I put this, organic and less blocky, right? And there are ways to do it. It will take a lot more work for them on their end to do it. But I think that's what I would want for something like this. But this right here is not a 2.0. It's just a nice update.
It's an update that's going to give you a lot of quality of life stuff. Maybe they add some of what you're talking about with the shipbuilding, because again, to be fair, some of the ships looked good, but some of them looked very generic.
They do. They look generic. Unfortunately, and if you really get into it, you can make some nice designs, but they still have that creative.
They're either too round or too square or too long, and it's weird.
Oh yeah, and Mac, yeah, I know you can use certain mods on a console, but I'm talking about on PC. It goes way beyond that. Like it goes way further than what it does on console. But it's cool that they do allow that, of course. But I'm talking about like way further. Like it goes so much more in depth than what you can do. But yeah, I would like something like that, but I get that this is not a 2.0 situation. So I'm interested in seeing how it lands. And apparently, as you pointed out, it's coming to PS5. I mean, this is something I don't know why I saw people like, yeah, see, it's coming to PS5. I'm like, didn't we already know?
We all kind of knew that already.
Yeah. I like some people were celebrating it like, ha, Xbox. And I'm like, but didn't we know this for like the better part of a year already? I didn't understand.
Maybe more than that. Yeah, maybe more than that. Yeah.
I think I've been disconnected from our Hoove brothers. I think maybe that's what it is. Like I haven't really been paying attention to their hijinks. So I don't know. Maybe that's what it was.
You're better for it, sir. Your mental well-being is better for it because it's just shenanigans.
I agree with that. And maybe they used to keep me up, and now I sleep carefree because of it. So it's got a dual backfire because of it. I don't know. But no, yeah, I've seen people celebrating, and I'm like, I thought we knew this already. So this is cool that it's coming to them as well, I suppose. It does lead some thoughts into one of the topics that will come up in a minute, though, that I would touch on. But I'll wait for that when we get to it. But yeah, hey, listen. Currently, the strategy is to put these games multi-platform. We did have it on Xbox for a better part of 2 years or so.
It would be 2 years and about 4 or 5 months if it releases on April 7th.
Got you. So about a year and a half, let's say maybe a year and a half. There's been some exclusivity to it for consoles at least. So I think maybe that is a strategy that they can use with something like this, and maybe even with the Elder Scrolls or something like that going forward. And I think that's reasonable enough. So it is what it is, and it can continuously improve. And I think it works out well that way. But I hope it lands well, and and that it sells well. More importantly, on PlayStation.
I think it will be. Again, if you go for September 23rd, 2023, when it released again, it's just rumors, thanks to Shinobi 602, that it would release April 7th, a pinch over 2 years as a rock solid exclusive for PC and Xbox. This is a strategy that might be in the pipeline. We will certainly see. But I want to segue into the big topic of the show, folks. Now, look, we were all shell-shocked 2 Fridays ago when we learned that Phil Spencer was retiring and Sarah Bond was stepping down. She was leaving the company. And it took a lot of us by storm. It's not something that I could have ever guessed or was on my bingo card list for 2026. And almost immediately, I'm like, my God, this is a monster-sized loss in the 25th anniversary celebration year. This isn't really good. So we get all introduced to Asha Sharma. And last Friday, they had a celebratory event at the main campus at Microsoft for both Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. Right now, there was a lot of pictures taken, and people were like, "Oh, Sarah wasn't there." She was there, folks. As a matter of fact, she got a lot of really kind words from Matt Booty and, of course, Asha. But that's not what we're here to talk about specifically. I just want to kind of, for context, there was an event. We do have a story here from Windows Central that we're going to be using as the base of our jumping off point, but it's where we're going to go with this conversation, chat and panel, is there's been a lot of chatter about something specific that Asha said. And she's, quote, bring back Xbox. And the community has been debating on this very interesting wording on what that exactly means. What does it look like? Well, she had some things to say during this event, and I have that quoted thanks again to this Windows Central story. Now, I saw an interaction between Jez Corden and Paris Lilly. So shout out to you, Paris, for once again being on top of everything. And Paris said, again, this is a quote: "We'll meet players where they are and build experiences that are instant and seamless and accessible." That's Asha saying that, and Paris Lilly's commentary on that is, that says to me it might start with console, but the multi-platform strategy isn't changing, and they want their games available where you want to play them. Good stuff, Jez. Now, Jez Corden had put out a tweet that, of course, Paris Lilly, who's in the chat, responded to, and I have that tweet in front of me, as long as it loads, and it has, and it says here, at Microsoft's big all-hands-on meeting, leaders paid tribute to the team, Sarah Bond, Phil Spencer, and the future. And it has, quote, "We're going to start with console and make sure we understand that this is our reference experience." Now, I have a couple of quotes here from Asha, and I believe that's one of them, so I'm going to reread it, not to sound repetitive, but I have my own notes here. And again, this is something that the community has been talking about back and forth. You know, Xbox is dead. The leadership is not a gamer. We saw Peter Moore come out and defend the hire because, you know, obviously Peter Moore, legendary Xbox leader, came from Nike. He didn't come from video games, and he did one of the best jobs in the business. I would say potentially, depending on who you ask, maybe even better than Phil Spencer, because he really took the console war shit serious. Like that was his thing. We're going to beat Sony. We're going to beat Nintendo. We're Xbox. Cross the line. That's Peter Moore as an individual and a leader. And, you know, this is a guy that got 2 tattoos when they announced Halo 2 and Grand Theft Auto as a timed exclusive. Are you freaking kidding me? Like that guy's a G, right? So here are some of the points of contention that I want to read verbatim. Bear with me, folks. It's 4 paragraphs. I don't want to sound, again, we're not going to repeat anything, but for context, I need it for the panel so you understand where we're going with this. And this is what Asha, who took the stage at this event, had to say. She says, "I'm so honored to be your next CEO. I'm even more proud to be a part of Team Xbox." And she goes on to say, Sharma said before talking about the road ahead, she wanted to pay tribute to Phil Spencer, noting that you are a remarkable leader and even more remarkable human. Your career will be remembered in stories of the creators you empowered, the team members who took risks that they didn't know that they could, and the story of community carried over generations. And this is where we get into it. She goes on to say, and she emphasizes, Xbox's community of players who call Xbox home, describing Xbox as a more than simply, quote, a business in regards to its actual community. She described the decades of work that had gone into Xbox, including its icons, characters, worlds, and Xbox itself, after stating, and this is where it's super important, folks, and this is what I love about Asha, she's putting her heart out there. Whether you trust her or not, she has to earn that, but this is what she had to say. "I will do everything I can to honor and protect that." That's big. So check this out, folks. She goes on to say, I have 3 commitments that I laid out. We will deliver great games. Everything is downstream of great games. That means empowering studios to do our best work. That's awesome. The second thing is the quote, here it is, the return to Xbox. We are going to start with console and make sure that we understand that this is our reference experience. We will meet players where they are and build experiences that are instant and seamless and accessible. And third, we are living through an unprecedented era of change. We will build for the future of play. And lastly, before we bring Crispy Bomb in, as we think about the road ahead, it's not going to be me or any one person. We will be Team Xbox. We will not be the studios or the platform or the marketing or the operations. We will be Team Xbox, and we will get through this together. Look, she's new. She has put her best feet forward. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she has to prove all of this. She has to make it happen for us to be like, you see, this is what she said. This is what she's doing. I get all of that. But I got to admit, every time I hear a new quote from her, I'm more energized that Xbox isn't dead and that this platform that many of us have been here since inception in 2001, it's not going anywhere, and it's going to be better than ever. Crispy Bomb, let's talk about what people are saying about Asha and whether or not what she had to say empowers what the future of Xbox is going to be.
Well, I have a completely out of the box thought, which I'm going to leave for maybe another day. My thought process is, think about it this way. You know, focusing on Xbox means a lot of different things now. This is an Xbox campaign. It already happened. It's done. Okay. I don't think they're going to walk that back. That said, and I really want you to emphasize, this is my thought process. Imagine if everything that Xbox has, because remember, she started with games. We got games. Okay. This isn't 3 years ago. This isn't even necessarily 2 years ago. We got games. We got developers doing their thing. Luckily, we haven't seen any like shakeups. Even Matt Booty said everything's staying the same as of now. I hope it stays the same for the whole year at minimum. Microsoft, Xbox, if you're listening, can we have like the rest of the year just be nothing but games and news and stuff we're getting in Game Pass? Like, you could just keep going with this. You don't have to stop. That being said, if they said from here on out, anything that hasn't been announced for PlayStation, all Xbox games are exclusive, well, then we have our clarity. Okay. Now, that said, I don't think it's going to happen. But I want clarity. I want them to give us clarity on what it means to own a Series X that's sitting in front of me. I'm not asking for the world. I'm asking you to stop, just beating around the bush all the time. And this is where you could go back real quick to Starfield. Sarah Bond announced that as an exclusive. Okay? If it goes to PlayStation, I honestly don't care. But once again, convoluted, horrible marketing. Figure it out. All right? I don't know what it means anymore. Okay? Like, I love my Series X. I've said it multiple times. Take that full screen experience and throw it on, at minimum, Series X. And you're going to sell those consoles. All right? And I guarantee you would. And people will say, that's not possible. Huh, you can get a dev mode and pay for it. Did you forget about that? People are playing PlayStation games on the Series X. It's completely possible. They need to figure out their direction, their narrative, what is going to go to other platforms and what is not. and give us a clear directive on what that is, because they still haven't. We are always guessing, and it's ridiculous, and it gives the pundits and the naysayers some kind of fuel to say, oh, this is coming, but then it's not. And I'll be honest, if I were Xbox and PlayStation says nothing is coming to even PC, they should rethink what they're doing, because at the end of the day, you have more money than both of your supposed console competitors combined easily. All right. You can do what you want. But here's the problem. They're worried about, oh, is somebody going to get so mad they're going to try to sue us or some stuff like that? That's what I feel like at this point. If you made Elder Scrolls 6 only on Xbox, how would that go over for the rest of the media that is PlayStation centric for years? I don't know. And that's
they
where
would probably lose their shit if that was announced as an Xbox exclusive. That's
where I say, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Boom, but that's where I say we will know where they stand when they talk about Gear Z Day more. And I'm dead serious about this, because you had 7 years to cook on UE5. You have made something that has made grown men cry, including myself, in just what you showed at the showcase. All right? You have something that even PS5 gamers remember the emotions from Gears 2, Gears 1, and Gears 3. To have E-Day be what it is, what they do with that will tell me everything, because she's new to the project, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't know what she has in the cards. And I'll give her that respect. But there's got to be something that says, hey, this is only on Game Pass and wherever Xbox is. This is on only Xbox. Your TV, your phone, wherever. You have that opportunity right now. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes you're not going to get the sales. And Sony has clearly done this. They get as many sales on some of their games on PC and other platforms than they do on their own platform. All right. But comes a point where it says, if you're going to focus on console, you need to have something that's a hard-hitting game that people might say, hey, I need that. I look at Wolverine as that for me. But am I going to spend what I need to spend to just play one game? That's the question. The crux is that we have Game Pass on Xbox. So you can play all the games you haven't played for a price, and you can unsub at any time. These are things that they need to focus on. Get your marketing right. And I like the hires for marketing, by the way.
Yes.
You got to understand that if you don't get the marketing right, which she has a marketing background, she started at Microsoft with marketing, you're not going to go anywhere. And I'll tell you right now, if they somehow get GTA 6 Play Anywhere, it's going to change some things. Trust me.
It's a good point of view. Now, before I bring in Jamie Moran, yesterday I closed out by saying I wasn't sure, because I don't have a marketing degree, folks. I'm just a gamer like you, right? I just happen to have a podcast. I could not put into words or even thoughts, how would they turn it around with console? Because every time Asha has been asked about console, they're saying they're going to make it a priority. How do you get people to, oh man, I'm going to buy an Xbox? Well, there are a couple of ways. We talked about the open-endedness of the box, right? It could very well be an open-sourced PC that looks like an Xbox. We talked about that forever. But here's something we don't really make mention of. There was a report from Jez Corden again that they're looking to potentially remove the paywall for the next Xbox, meaning that there would be Xbox Game Pass, but there wouldn't be like PC, you'd play for free. You play multiplayer for free. That would be a big driving point. But here's what else I thought of, and I thought about this last night when I was writing the show, Jamie. how do you get people to prioritize the new Xbox? Well, it's something that Crispy said. Now, I have a quote here from the Duck of Death. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. So thank you, Duck, for this commentary. He says, "Does exclusive have to mean exclusive until the end of time when it's Xbox? Oh, LOL. Sony always plays coy with exclusivity." Well, here is an opportunity for Asha and the new marketers to take a page out of Sony's book. You have one of your big games, whatever the next big game is going to be. Like, let's just say Elder Scrolls is the next big one. And you do a big blowout and you show a trailer, whether it be CG or not. And you announce only that it's coming to PC and Xbox. And you don't mention PlayStation. And you kind of just drop it on the table. Like, that's it. This is what it's coming to. Now, what that ultimately does is be like, whoa, what about PlayStation? We're not talking about PlayStation. It's coming to Xbox. It's coming to PC. You can play it on this new box. What that does is prioritize the hardware, and it will give people incentive to do what? Buy the hardware. I'm just saying that could be how they do it. I don't know for sure, but Jamie, what she had to say is encouraging. I see a lot of people in the chat that are as encouraged as I am. Some people are kind of still skeptical, as they should be. She has to do the things that she said she wants to do as the new Xbox leader, but we will certainly see. What are your thoughts, man?
I think there's a bunch of different things that need to be fixed. Like, look, we talked about this last week. Phil Spencer saved Xbox, brought in backwards compatibility. Japanese support on Xbox is better than ever. But like what Asha Shah was saying, I think that she might be the best person for the job. Because look, how long have we been talking about next generation Xboxes for? 2 years, right? And why have we been talking about them for 2 years? It's not because we feel like this generation is getting old. It's because we've needed to be reassured by Microsoft 55,000 times that they're making a new console. So they've told us years in advance, oh yeah, we're making a new console, right? And at every opportunity, Microsoft, I'm trying to think how I can word this properly. Xbox console gamers, the core user base of Xbox, they've been told on a bi-monthly basis that, hey, the future of Xbox is cloud. It's it's all about the ecosystem. It's all about PC streaming, all this stuff. The console gamer has kind of been left on the sidelines.
I agree.
Right? Where the console should always be the core, the focus, the tippity top of what's focused. And yeah, you can still do your PC stuff. You can still do your streaming stuff. That's all cool. That's cool. That's all extra stuff, right? If you're a console gamer, like the tens of millions of people out there, they've been told for the past several years, hey, by the way, your next gen Xbox is going to be a PC. It's going to cost $1,000 because people have made this number up and pulled it out of the arse. Game Pass is going up in price because, hey, we didn't really think it through when we bought Activision. So, hey, he's Call of Duty and he's a Fortnite Battle Pass. By the way, give us more money. And the console gamer, yeah, they've been getting games. Cool. They've been getting a good service. Cool. But like the console user base has been given nothing. Not really, right? But if you're a PC player, or if you're on cloud, you're told about the future being cloud centric, streaming, all this stuff, interconnected ecosystem. And like, look, I cover Xbox. I prefer Xbox. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm optimistic about Xbox. But like, you can't sit here and say like, oh, by the way, the console has been the focus. It hasn't been. It hasn't been the focus for years. And that's been the core problem. And marketing has been a big problem, right? In the UK, Game Pass is only marketed as PC Game Pass, right? Big problem. The console is barely marketed. The fact that their box, and this annoys the hell out of me, their box doesn't even say it's backwards compatible. What are they thinking? And look, every time we talk about next generation consoles, because that's going to be a topic whenever we talk about, Asha Shah and the future of Xbox, right? Why is the sudden shift to, hey, by the way, our next gen Xbox is a PC? And console gamers and now having to accept that their next-gen console is a PC. They don't want to hear that. And also, the multi-storefront thing has never made sense to me, right? I did business at college, but you don't need a degree or any kind of certificate to understand that having multiple storefronts on a console technically makes no sense financially, right? The end user gets access to their games. Cool. 2 thumbs up from me. Nice times. But as a business, it makes 0 sense. And this is where someone will say, but why do you care? It's because the Xbox brand, I want it to survive. And if you think that having people being able to buy, hey, do you want to buy Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake on Xbox storefront for £70? Or do you want to buy it on Steam for 60? Doesn't make sense. Literally makes no sense financially. Right? So, like, I've been sitting here for months, like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because everyone's going, yes, we're going to have access to multiple storefronts and we're going to have a PC as a console. Whereas the console user base does not want that, right? If you want a PC, you can build whatever beast rig you want. You can have path tracing, all that stuff, and make your PC your way. Console gamers don't want that. Console gamers want to buy a box, plug it into their TV, buy games from a storefront, not think about drivers, not think about signing into multiple different storefronts, all that jazz, right? They just want a console. That's it. All they need to do, and this is going to sound crazy, absolutely crazy. All they have to do is make a console that looks like a console, acts like a console price. Don't gouge your users' wallets for Game Pass, like by raising the price all the time. Stop stepping on rakes by coming out with bad news at every opportunity. Like, look, Sony had the biggest news of this year by laying off, Bluepoint, and they couldn't wait a day to announce, oh, by the way, leadership completely changing. I was like,
yeah,
you couldn't give it the weekend. Like, you couldn't give it the weekend. So, like, you have marketing, and let's talk about the exclusive games thing. I've not mentioned a peep about this online because I think it's a really complicated issue, right? You have developers that are making ports of PlayStation games right now. So it's like, how far along are these ports? That's one thing. Are they going to shift to a complete exclusive, business strategy? Will it be a timed strategy? And even just small things like removing the PlayStation logo from Xbox trailers, I think would do wonders, because I noticed that made a lot of people angry.
It soured a lot of the diehard Xbox players. Because look, Jamie, I'll give it back the mic in a second. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's little things like that where it would go from they've bent the knee to they're back to being Xbox. We're not talking right now. This is an Xbox show. We're not talking about anybody else. If you play an Xbox, you can play these games. I think they kind of got to get back to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of these comments they don't really understand what I'm saying. Like, I think what's happened this past couple of weeks in the game industry is bloody weird, right? Sony's shutting down one of their best studios, a remake studio that could have made anything. Xbox messes up the next day by not waiting a weekend, And look, do I sound annoyed? Maybe. But the truth is, I just want Microsoft to make a cool console with cool games. That's it. And I think that's all most people want, right? Now, the exclusive thing has been brought up time and time again. Again, back to my other point, like, we don't know how far along these games are with the ports. We don't know what they're going to do long term, because look, I bet there's people in Microsoft talking right now what they should do, because over the past couple of years, they have shifted to a multi-platform strategy. Do we know that's worked? We don't know. But like, look at the Starfield situation, right? If you go back to January 2024, Phil Spencer said, look, the 4 games that are going to be multi-platform, the games that aren't going to be multi-platform is Starfield and Indiana Jones, right? That was a public statement made live on air. And then 4 minutes later, in a Verge interview, he said he's not saying they will never go to PlayStation, right? So, like, messaging for Xbox has been arguably the biggest problem for years,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
They've been too transparent and not transparent at the same time, right? They go back and forth on what they say all the time. They say The Outer Worlds 2 is going to be exclusive. It wasn't. They said Starfield is exclusive. They even plastered it on the screen behind Sarah Bond when she said it on stage, saying it was exclusive. It's apparently not going to be. And like, look, at the end of the day, I don't really care, right? I played Starfield. I'm going to play the new content. I'm going to bloody enjoy it. But I think that if you look at what the consoles are doing right now, what's going to make these consoles sell, right? Because, oh, by the way, there's always these people that say that Microsoft doesn't care about console sales. The people that say that don't actually know what they're talking about, right? Microsoft makes most of their money in Xbox when it comes to, you know, the Xbox ecosystem from game sales, from DLC, microtransactions, all that stuff, right? Not just Game Pass. So, like, to say that Microsoft doesn't care about console sales is stupid, right? Microsoft, they need to make their messaging clear. They need to tell the consumer exactly what they're going to do, or not at all. And also, by the way, Xbox needs to stop doing interviews every 5 minutes, right? Yeah, it's been cool seeing like Phil Spencer and other people from Xbox interact with the community and, you know, do interviews all the time. But at the same time, if you have like 50 people doing interviews, right, there's going to be mixed messaging, right? So we are told these 4 games are going to go multi-platform, but it's not a sign of future games. Then we're told 5 minutes later that they are. Then we're shown that Indiana Jones was going to be exclusive, and then it's not. That's mixed messaging. It's confused people. And as someone that runs an Xbox-centric YouTube channel, let me tell you, a lot of the replies are people being confused by the messaging, right? It's crystal clear to me that, you know, there's things going on Xbox that, you know, like, look, we've both heard that behind the scenes, apparently developers at Xbox were not happy with the multi-platform situation, right? So do they listen to the developers? We don't know. And I see people are just picking apart what I'm saying. Lovely. Not a shocker, though. Look, I think at the end of the day, I want Xbox to be healthy. I want PlayStation to be healthy. I want Nintendo to be healthy. Back when the 7th gen was popping off, all these consoles were selling over like close to 100 million or more, and everyone was competing for number one, right? We weren't talking about on a weekly basis, or hey, this console should be, you know, the last of its, you know, the last console they put out, and they should end the console division. Nobody was talking like that. But this, people are, right? People are saying Xbox doesn't care about console sales because of the price and whatnot. Look, the price of the console at the minute is a mess because, let's be honest, the RAM situation has messed everything up. Both console manufacturers have raised the price multiple times this generation, especially in the UK. And the Switch 1 is apparently going to go up in price as well as the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Not a good situation of anything going up. Like, hell, I like the RAM price, by the way, it's ridiculous, right? The RAM I was looking at, it's borderline £300. £300. You could buy an Xbox Series S for that, right? But all that Xbox needs to do is have an actual vision. Xbox hasn't had a vision for years, and that's been a big problem, right? People didn't know, like, oh, what's the reason to buy an Xbox? Do you want to buy into... Because I think, look, there's a lot of reasons to buy into an Xbox, right? I think they have the best console. They have the best backwards compatibility. They have the best ecosystem. They have... Look, their games are multi-platform, but I think they make the best games, right? That's going to be different for everyone. But, like, to sell a console to everyone, they need to market it. They need to market their actual vision. They can't market this whole, oh, look at us, we're going to do this multi-platform ecosystem strategy, because that just makes the huge streamers just, you know, crap on Xbox more. You have the journalists that look at Xbox and say, maybe this should be the last console they put out. Whereas they didn't do this for the Wii U, by the way. It's a whole mess at the minute, but I'm optimistic. That's a funny thing. I might sound annoyed. I'm actually optimistic about the future of Xbox, because when she said she wants Xbox to be the core, that's how it should always be, right? Like, for the past several months when we've talked about next gen, I've clearly sounded annoyed when we talk about next generation Xbox consoles as a PC, because at the end of the day, you're not selling PCs to console players. That's just crazy to me, but we'll obviously hear about that in the future. Long story short, I'm optimistic, but the exclusivity thing is clearly going to be a big factor, because look, some people want it, some people don't. they'll have to figure out what works for them, because some games are clearly in development. Like Elder Scrolls 6 has been mentioned a bunch of times, right? Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out when? 2028, 2029?
29.
Right? Let's just say for fun's sake, 2029. As of now, that game pretty much hasn't been made for any console, right? It's just been made on a PC, and then they're going to put it on console whenever they get closer to launch or whatever, right? If things change and it is exclusive, then a lot of people are going to be like, wow, I need to get an Xbox for Elder Scrolls. But if it's not exclusive and they still launch their console early, a lot of people will still want to get an Xbox for Elder Scrolls. Yeah. So there's 50 different factors that play into this whole thing. So I don't think it's as simple as, hey, let's do exclusive, let's not do exclusives. They have to be crystal clear with messaging, man. And it's been a mess for a long time.
It has, and this is why her first priority is to redo their marketing. They're apparently bringing 2 big marketers that are going to help fix the problem. One of the biggest glaring problems. But Umbra, I want to bring you in, brother. And I do have a quote here that came out during the Jez Corden interview, that 13-minute interview that he got with her. And this is what she said. And it's interesting because she makes mention of Renegade. I want to touch on that. She says, for me, the spirit of return out to Xbox is about returning to the spirit that the team was founded on. It's the spirit of surprise. It's the spirit of building something nobody else is willing to try. And I've heard the terms renegade, rebellion, and fun used. So renegade and rebellion is, walking with a bit of carrying a big stick and walking silently, kind of slapping somebody up in the head, side of the head. There was a time, and I'm not saying they're going back to it, Umbra. I'm saying that there was a time where only an Xbox was on every first-party game. Now, are they going to get back to that? Probably not. I agree with Paris on that. I think the cat's already out the bag. But there's a way that you can do both. You can have multi-platform or a multi-platform strategy, but you can also have an exclusive that is a year and a half. Pull a page out of Sony's book. They were waiting years to release on PlayStation from PlayStation 5 to PC, and that's changed. Some games like Marvel's Token, which is not, they're a big part of that. That's releasing day and date on PC and on PlayStation. You know where it's not releasing? On Xbox. Now, will it ever get there? I don't know, to be honest with you. But what I can tell you is if Xbox wants to prioritize the actual hardware, their next generation hardware, this is how you would do it. This is how you would fix the issues about everything going everywhere. Yeah, you'll eventually get it, but you're not getting it up front. And we're not going to tell you up front. Put the media on notice. Hey, listen, what we're here to talk about is Xbox and PC. If you don't want to talk about that, go to the back of the room, man, or go to the next direct that PlayStation has. Because right now we're not mentioning PlayStation, and we're not going to have PlayStation logos. We'll talk about PlayStation when it's going to come to PlayStation. Right now it's on Xbox, so you want it, buy this hardware. There you go. That's how I would actually do it. What are your thoughts, Umbra?
I have a bunch of thoughts.
So please, by all means, take it away.
And some people are not going to like, but I want to start with Mr. Strike 16 with Paris Lily. I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, but
he probably is. He's always lurking.
He's always lurking and trying to give somebody a strike or something. But his post that he made, I mean, I get that some are like, oh, that was really insightful, Paris. I said that last week on my show. I feel like he took that from me. I don't know.
Oh,
just saying.
Strike one for Paris?
Yeah, strike one for Paris.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, write strike one.
Are we polling?
There. I'm just saying, because he didn't say anything unique to me. I just like, yeah, duh, Paris. Duh. Now let me stop playing before he actually gives me strike 17. But I'll say this. Thank you, Sin. I have one person who else is coming with me. There we go, Joey. This is my thing on that. I think the problem that I'm having right now with Asha, I almost called her Satya, and that tells you where my mind is that I don't know if I believe what she's saying. That's the problem.
That's fair, dude. She's new,
Yeah.
and just for clarity, I know a lot of people think that someone put a super chat in. I'm going to read it verbatim. She wasn't picked by Satya. She was actually picked by the board.
Yeah, but the board that he's also on. So I don't know how much that means with that. You know what I mean? And I saw that too, and I was like, yeah, but what influence does he have over that board? Maybe he was like, I'm telling you that she would be the best. Asha would be great. And I don't know why I'm thinking his voice sounds like that, but yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. There's so much we don't know, and because I don't trust him either at all. Like less than her, right? I don't trust Satya less because ultimately he is that cold businessman at the top. He's going to be nice. He's going to smile. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he's going to do what he considers best for the business, and that's not necessarily linked to what's best for us, and that's the problem. I think that she's very much in line with what he wants. Ideologically, as far as their philosophy, the entire idea of exclusivity is as antithetical to him. So I don't see her rebelling against that. I don't see her, going counter to what he said. Even her doing saying all the right things. It has this underlay of, I'll just say the right stuff to make people feel good, right? To ease us in. The whole, it won't be AI slop. That's a little on the nose for me. Coming from somebody who's from OpenAI. It just felt like, let me say this and denounce it a little bit. It won't be this terrible thing everybody hates with AI that's taking everyone's job. We won't do that. Wink. I don't know. I'm getting the thought I'm getting right now is that she's just saying the nice, good stuff. But I will say, my doubts does not make it true. It's just the feeling I have so far. Them actually hiring two Xbox marketing guys, that actually made me think a little bit like maybe I was wrong, because we all know, and I think we can all agree, Xbox's marketing has been pretty horrible over the years.
Absolutely.
So seeing that made me think maybe they're not doing what I'm thinking. Maybe they actually are going to actually go all in and put some straight effort into this, and that could be the case. I'm not saying my view is correct. It's just what my feeling right now. It's the as I call it, my black sense kicking in, like the Spidey sense. Boom, yeah, that's what I call it. So I don't know. I'm getting a bit of the feeling of that. What I would feel like for Xbox, what they would have to do, and I think it's problematic because of the situation we're in economically. The problem is the Xbox or PlayStation, all of them are expensive as hell. How do you, as somebody who's trying to sell something that is a great system, because the Series X and S are great consoles, we can all agree. I get upset a little bit, or at least I used to. I used to be bothered at the thought that you have such great hardware, such a great ecosystem with Xbox. It is the best in the business to me. And yet people didn't give it its due share and fair shake. That's unfortunate to me. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that bothers me. But so how do you combat that if you're trying to sell to people? Well, now they've raised the prices for these things. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to cut the pricing down, right? If they want to grab new people. Well, some will say they have the S for that. Some people may not want the S. And it's also got its limitations that people may not want it for. And then you have the problem of exclusivity. How do you combat that? Well, now you have to change strategies. And how do you do that? I think Elder Scrolls is a good one. I agree with you all there. But Elder Scrolls can't be the only one, right? It'll have to be something of a major shift. Can't just be one game, because despite as great as Elder Scrolls is as an IP, it won't be enough to bring in the numbers that you would need to shift people back over. It's going to have to be a concerted effort for their IP going over to PlayStation to have a delay. It's got to be a year or two, right?
I agree. At least a year.
At the very least. It's got to be at least a year delay if they're going to shift their strategy. The idea that they're going to go back to specific exclusivity on console, I think that is a pipe dream that
many
Yeah, I don't
people
think the full-on exclusivity forever
Yeah.
is going to come back. But holding, I saw Master Jazz in the chat say, "Are we going back to holding games exclusive hostage?" Dude, listen. First of all, welcome.
Hostage.
I'm happy to have you here, brother. But I think you're talking about if this is an
I got
excess.
receipts.
Yeah, I would kind of back off on that comment because honestly, dude, if there's anyone holding anything hostage, it's PlayStation. They've done that for years. Now, when Xbox might go back to it, it's not good anymore. See, that's the double standard what we're talking about. That is unacceptable.
That's one of my next points I was going to make, actually.
Please, but go ahead.
And it to combat the thought, right, that okay, well, I don't need an Xbox because I can get it on PlayStation or I can get it on PC. Well, PC, I think, is not the problem. I think if you're a console player, you're going to stay that way, right? If you've made up in your mind, I don't want to go to PC, although the next gen is going to force you into that kind of role anyway, if you're moving forward, because it's going to be an Xbox Fusion, as I've dubbed it, music in
You
chat.
should get paid for that, sir.
Yes, Xbox, I know y'all listening. So this is my thing. If they go the exclusive route, or at least try the semi-exclusive route, like a year delay, they could even say certain games are not going to go over, right? Some games they keep just to Xbox, and some games will go to PlayStation. They can do literally what Phil said and go by a case-by-case basis. They could do that. Problem is the cost of making these games too, so they want to get this ROI back, right? So I don't know how that all shakes out. What I would say is that Xbox could do is something they kind of abandoned, and that is grabbing these third-party exclusive deals. Now, you already see how that's not working out so well for Sony nowadays, where they try to do even so for Crimson Desert, and the Crimson Desert team was like, nah, we're good. We'd prefer to be everywhere, right? So I don't know if that even works anymore. That's the thing. So much has shifted in terms of how they can use these different strategies. I don't know if they would apply for Xbox anymore, but if that would have been one of my thoughts, is money had these games the way Sony's money heading these games. You got more money than they got. I would have an exclusive lineup of third party. People wouldn't understand if they belong to every game platform or not, right? But I don't think that works anymore, unfortunately. And unfortunately, too, PlayStation has a bigger install base, so a lot of these companies may not want to do that. So that's the problem I'm having there. But I think if one way they can correct it is, one, they got to get their messaging right. Somebody mentioned in the chat about having your studios and such kind of be in line with how you speak and not go off mentioning other platforms. I kind of agree to that. I think you want to push your main home console versus anything else, and let the marketing team do their job as far as mentioning PlayStation and such, right? Seeing a PlayStation logo and all of that, once you show a trailer with an Xbox title that we know is an Xbox IP, some people probably feel a way about that, right? And some people probably feel like, okay, why would I need an Xbox? It's coming here, right? It's a mindset thing. So maybe the marketing team can kind of get around that too. The best things I can think ways they can handle it is to give limited exclusivity. Maybe that might help, but that's gonna a few things that's got to happen. One, it's got to be more than one game. It's got to be a bunch of games that's going to pull people away. Most people are not coming over for just one game. Xbox has some strengths in where they have IP that are, heavy on multiplayer portion. Obviously, the Call of Duties, the WoWs, right? The Overwatches, the Halos. They have those. They the Forzas. So they have these that can pull people over as far as that goes. And if you tie it into Game Pass and things of that nature, so they have that. But the single player games, I think they need to take that to another level as far as how they deliver those and have it consistently be great. And they've been doing great, by the way. I'm not saying this to say they haven't. These past few years, Xbox has been on a roll, and I think you have to lie to yourself to say otherwise. I've been very happy with them, with their output, but they keep that consistent and give it a semi delayed release on PlayStation. Maybe day and date with PC, they can continue that maybe, but do that, and maybe you can shift the thought process of hey, get an Xbox, right? Or the next the fusion, if you will, for the next gen. And that maybe that's the way they can combat. But I think it's got to be a consistent stream of that happening that's going to eventually shift the thought process and culture. That's the way I look at it. But again, with Asha, I'm not yet sold. I know some people are wanting to believe, oh yeah, and Asha we trust and all. Not yet, not for me. I'm waiting to see more. I would say I don't want to, in my mind, I'm feeling like that she will be the catalyst for them going to just being a publisher. But I'm open to being proven wrong, and I will say as much if that's the case. But that's what it feels like to me. But we'll see. And back to you, Boom. Or did you step away? Okay.
Well,
so how about them Bears, Chris B and Jamie?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to step away. I had a phone call, but yeah, I mean, listen, I look. You made mention of prioritizing the box. They have to figure something out to get people to buy the next hardware. The way that you do that, and the way you can do it where it doesn't ruffles everyone's feathers, where, oh, well, we just got Halo Gears 4 as a Fable, right? They're getting all of those games. Now, right, we don't know specifically if Gears is day and date. I know Paris had said many, many times that he believes it is. Forza Horizon 6 is going to be this year, probably at the end of the year. So it's going to be like a six month, exclusivity towards it. Halo's releasing, Halo Campaign Evolved day and date. Fable supposedly is releasing day and date as well. So these are the big ones. What do you do to prioritize your next generation hardware? Well, it's got to be a banger. And it's got to be a game that's going to come out that when it does release is going to get people to raise their eyebrows. And if the game is as good as, let's say, for instance, for shits and giggles, it's The Elder Scrolls 6. That's a game that is going to sell like hotcakes. But if you went out and said, this is releasing on Xbox and on PC, and you cut the mic, you're going to get people to be lining up. But wait a second, what about PlayStation? It's the best console in the world. Actually, we're not talking about PlayStation right now. This is where you're going to play it. And if you want to play it, you're going to buy our new hardware. Fuck it. That's what I would do.
What bothers me about that, Boom, is that people will say that, and they have no real reason to say PlayStation is the best platform. They only have that because that is the popular thing to say.
I know. No, I'm not saying it's.
I know you're not. I'm saying people who have that mindset.
I put on a PlayStation hat. Like, oh, it's the best console. It's sold.
No, but that's how they think, and it's because of the zeitgeist. Like PlayStation has captured that, right? They're the marketing leader. But that bothers me because, and only in the sense that people have missed out on a great experience with Xbox because they think, oh, this is the only one that matters. But then also you have these gaming behaviors where people don't play all these first party titles at Sony like that. Not like people thought they did, not anymore, right? Yeah, that's Nintendo. Nintendo has these, I sold 80 copies of Mario or something like that, 80 million copies of Mario. PlayStation and Xbox are not getting that. People just think that PlayStation is the default. That's the reason why they say this. But if we're talking about quality and what you get on a platform, Xbox would be number one. And I would agree there. Yeah. And that's the problem I have was like, I feel like it's such a shame that from whatever moves they've made to make people like fall off and not appreciate the platform for what it is, that's what's currently happening. One thing I would say, just to kind of throw it out there, shout out to Judah in the chat. He says, pull back Halo and Gears. I kind of feel like since it is multiplayer portions in that, they could maybe go halfway with that, Judah, and that is give them the multiplayer suites
and not the single player,
and not the single player
Halo one. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
that would be my thought. Yeah, because they could still capitalize off the multiplayer portion, right? That won't harm anything, and that will actually help a lot as far as the the numbers and people playing it and keeping it lively. But maybe the single player part they would pull back. That would be my thought, and that you can only get on Xbox or, of course, PC, or maybe just Xbox. for the story.
Well, I mean, look, the PC is still going to be a big part of what they're doing because the next Xbox, even though it's going to look like an Xbox, it's going to ultimately be a PC, and I'm okay with that. Again, they're going to make this thing. You're not going to require driver updates and stuff like that. This is going to look and act exactly like a console, except it's going to give you the open-endedness of PC. That's the only difference. But again, the only way you can, in my opinion, prioritize the next generation hardware with games, this is how you would do it. Yes, you can sell it that it's open-ended. You can play all your games, your entire Steam library, good old games, and Epic Game Store. And by the way, every Xbox game you've ever known is playable on this thing. That's awesome. We've removed the paywall from this. Even better, you don't have to pay for online. It has Xbox Game Pass, so you're getting these AAA bangers day and date, all in one place on top of indie, second party, third party, another advantage. But how you, quote, sell this box to the masses is basically take a game like an Elder Scrolls, and Joey in the chat says Blade. We don't know when Blade is coming out. Blade could be a launch title for this thing in 2027.
We haven't even talked about that.
Could be, but that's
I mean,
that's part of what I'm
Blade was
saying,
like,
though, right?
Blade turns out to be this Spider-Man level or this Wolverine level type of game. It's gory, it's gorgeous looking, it's on the new hardware, and you say, guess what, folks? You want to play this? Buy the hardware or buy PC because you're not playing it on PlayStation.
You want some of this dinga bacaba goodness?
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Pause.
Yeah, because get a back. But that's what I mean. Like, it has to be a multifaceted approach, right? It can't be just one game. One game is not going to do it. Not for people who are like brainwashed to believing, this is the only platform you need to get. You got to break them out of that. And the only way to do that is to have multiple games that you have to have an Xbox for. It has to be a concerted effort, in my opinion.
I listen, again, there are ways to do it. I understand that the traditional the exclusive for Xbox is gone, but you can get the both sides of the coin. You can do multi-platform, but you can do exclusivity for a year. So you are winning on both worlds, because there are some people that will not buy a PlayStation because the game is going to come to PC, and they're like, well, I'll just wait. Well, that could be the same type of situation for Xbox. Or I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy the new Xbox, but that game looks kind of dope. I don't know, FOMO, a year. And like I said, I would listen. Information is power, as they say. The lack of it is also power. No, we're not talking about PlayStation right now. This is coming out to Xbox. It's coming to PC. You want to play this game, you either play it on the old Xbox that you currently have, or buy the new one, or go to PC. This is where you can play it. Oh, but I want to. Oh, well, tough titty. What can I tell you? That's what I would do, and that's how I think it needs to go, because you can still be multi-plat, but you can also use the power of said IPs, not one game, but multiple IPs, and say, you know what? Right now, this is Xbox. It's on PC. Xbox is PC, and PC is Xbox.
100%. And also, too, the idea that FOMO doesn't matter is an illusion. Some people, it doesn't matter to. I think a lot of PC gamers, maybe they've trained themselves, but us console players, we don't. When coming from console that way, I still get FOMO. That's why, for instance, Resident Evil 9, I broke my rule of skipping ahead. I haven't played through 6 all the way. I haven't played 7 or 8.
6 was terrible, dude. I didn't finish it either. It
was I've seen enough of it where I was like, no. But I'm going to play through it anyway again with my nephew and fully get through it, right? But 7 and 8, I haven't played. But I skipped ahead to 9 because the FOMO got to me. Xbox has to create that too. Having something where it's a year exclusive and it's hitting on all cylinders, it's got crazy review scores, critics and fans alike hitting the way, like for instance, like a Resident Evil is currently doing. Yeah, people are going to be like, okay, I got to get this thing.
Yeah,
right. Keep giving them stuff that they can only get here, and even if it's a year out, people are not going to want to wait for that.
Not if it's a banger.
Right.
Not if it's a game that's a 90 meta. Not if it's a game that everybody is talking about in the community and everybody in your friends list is playing, right? You're going to be like, all right, I cannot wait. I got to get this game. This is how you do it. But folks, this has been one hell of a 2-hour show. And again, this is back-to-back 2-hour shows that we've had last week and this week. Hopefully you enjoyed the commentary. Let me catch up on Super Chats and we'll get everyone out of here. So Nino Vestic, our generous friend from Hawaii, does what he always does. He has gifted one Double Barrel Gaming membership. So, of course, aloha to you, and thank you so much for the generosity, brother. We super appreciate it. JD Gamer drops a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, don't forget the rumors of Asha isn't Satya's pick. She's was the board's pick. That matters because we are getting a new bold direction. Renegade. Literally what I just said before Umber jumped on. Great point, brother. We also have here, It's Me, the Broke Boy, drops an outstanding and redonkulous $20 Super Chat. He says, I got Nib using names to admit Xbox tax. He told me, quote, anyone who isn't a blithering, inept shill is going to cover Xbox with this much more negative eye because that is the, quote, factual reality of Xbox versus the competition. I mean, look, that dude is a troll, man. And I say don't feed the trolls, which is why he's blocked. And a bunch of those trolls I don't interact with them. And I think for your own mental well-being, I don't think you should either. But thank you so much for the $20. And I think that even though you did get him, he's not going to care. He's just that's his nature. JD Gamer drops a very generous $10 Super Chat. He says, all Asha does is win. She wins everywhere she goes. She's been bringing that. She's will be bringing that to Xbox. Now just ring back exclusives. But what does that look like? Peter Moore showed us in the Xbox 360 that exclusive content plus launch. I mean, again, I think I spelled it out. I think the way that you can have your cake and eat it too is keep everything multi-plat, but keep things for exclusive for a year. This again, I don't want to sound like I'm just rerunning the numbers. If they're trying to figure out how to get people to buy an Xbox again, this is how you do it. That's the only way I see forward. But then again, I also don't have a marketing degree. Dan the Man Cunningham drops an outstanding, very generous $5 Super Chat and says, Microsoft needs to make the Elder Scrolls an exclusive and not discuss timed exclusive. Let the PlayStation gamers cry. Will it work? It wouldn't hurt, in my opinion. I kind of agree with that. You can call it holding games hostage, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. But if you want to play this game, you're going to play on this console, or you're going to play on PC, or guess what? You can play YouTube and watch the videos. That's how I would do it. Again, that's one of those drop on table and just sit there. This is, you want to be a renegade? Go back to being a renegade. They lost their way, man. They've lost their way. And even though I think exclusivity makes them money, I don't think it's what's going to get people to buy the console. And I do think people care. You heard me say Xbox doesn't care about console. Well, that ideology about this is an Xbox and Xbox Anywhere, that didn't work. The fact that Play Anywhere is working because you can buy one game and play it everywhere, that's dope. This is an Xbox. It didn't work. And what happened, console sales were hurt severely with that. This is Ara Gator Sir 306 in the chat drops a very generous $2 Super Chat and says, why hasn't Asha said anything about Game Pass? Because it's a very touchy subject, and when they're going to talk about it, it's going to be that they're adding value, not adding price increase, because that right now would devastate the community. They just went up 50%, and they cannot do that again. So that's probably why she's not talking about it. Ray Chi says this after dropping a very generous $2 Super Chat. PlayStation fans call us beta testers. Yeah, that goes whatever they want. They also don't buy their own games, and I don't know if they're buying Xbox games. I know they're buying some of them, but not all of them. I wouldn't worry about it. Gamer by Choice drops an additional $2 super chat. Says, do casuals get FOMO? We are enthusiasts. I actually think that they do, to be honest with you, because if it's a Zygai type of experience that everyone is talking about, the casuals, the normies, they will be like, oh, I got to buy this game. Oh, it's not available on PlayStation. Maybe they buy an Xbox. I'm not saying that they will. I'm saying that it's possible. The Marvelous Marvin has gifted, wow, man, 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Brother, that's very kind of you. And he outdoes himself by dropping an outstanding $20 super chat and says, awesome live stream and videos. Brother, that's very kind of you, Marvin. We appreciate the kind words, but more specifically, the big generosity. We absolutely do. And Umbra says this after being a channel member for 3 months. Thank you so much, Umbra, for that. He says Paris is at strike 2.5. What happens? Just go full 3. I don't understand. What's a half strike? I don't know what that looks like.
It's like a warning, like you
it's like
there.
It's not like a flag. It's kind of like a. I don't really know football or soccer. I know the red card is out, but I know so you pull the yellow card on it. Okay,
he's right there. Just one more.
All right.
One more of those. Yeah. And he'll be at strike 3. Just one more of those.
Yeah. My goodness. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for us. I hope you had as much fun as we did. Lots of information, lots of big opinions. The chat was awesome as always. But let's get everyone out here. Chris Brown, sell the brand, brother. Where can people follow you on the socials to get a side dish of receipts when necessary?
I could spam on X. We'll see you Friday on Breakfast of Boom.
Yes.
That's about it.
All right, nice. Excellent. Jamie Moran, you have a show later this evening called the All Things Xbox Podcast, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with yourself and Logan Meyer, where you break down upwards of 17 topics. That's usually about 2 hours plus. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people not only subscribe to the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel, but follow you on social media?
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. Despite what I sounded like earlier, I am actually in a very good mood. But yeah, so the Elusive Gamer is my YouTube channel. I exclusively cover Xbox, and well, whenever I get the chance to talk about Mass Effect, I do that as well. All Things Xbox podcast is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's good. It's always a fun time over there. And tonight I'm going to be talking about Splinter Cell, shocker to no one, Final Fantasy, and well, the Marathon situation, because I've played Marathon and I've got a lot to say.
Nice.
But yeah, that's 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel. I also do Twitter, which is Jamie Moran UK.
Nice, brother. Well, we're looking forward to that show tonight, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts about Marathon, which is going to be releasing, I think, in 2 days, if I'm not mistaken, the 5th. I'm pretty sure. And we'll see how that fares. Whether or not I know that it was a bit of a drop off from its initial run to where it wound up ending, but that doesn't necessarily mean people aren't going to buy it. I saw a lot of people say that it wasn't for them. I didn't play it, even though it was free, because I know it's not for me. I don't do the extraction shooter thing, but we'll see. We'll see if Bungie comes out swinging and whether or not the community responds in kind. Lastly, I've been Umbra. Let's sell the brand of the fix. Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with you, Crusader, and the biggest hater of Nintendo, Daniel J. McGee, which he will call you a caveman if you like that. And he probably talks terrible about me because I love my Nintendo Switch. But sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to the YouTube channel, but more importantly, follow you on social media?
Indeed. Great show, fellas. Great chat. Thank you all for being here, holding us down. I saw a few tomatoes thrown at me, by the way. I don't like that. Y'all better clean that up.
There were tomatoes thrown left, right, and center. I got some. Jamie got some. Crispy got some. Everyone got tomatoes.
Y'all just like wasting food, huh? Who taught you that? Huh?
Oh my goodness.
No, but as far as myself, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite, you'll find me either way on social media. That's Blue Sky and Twitter, mostly, that you'll find me. Obviously, my link to the channel is there in the chat here. If you all have not subscribed, please do so. We are very close to 2,000. I felt like we should have had that already, but I blame myself for the lack of consistency at times. We will be going live this Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, as Boom said. It's myself, Crusader, and Daniel J. McGee. We have a great show. A lot of great discussion, heated discussion at times. Last week was pretty heated, by the way. It was a good discussion, though. And if you all are free, to come by, we would appreciate it. Come by and talk with us and, things of that nature. Yeah, it's a few of you all that do come by often. We do appreciate that. Trust me. So I know you all are busy, and we have a wealth of great content creators out there doing their thing. So I know it's tough to pull yourself away from somebody else that you've been, supporting as well. So if you do come by, trust me that it means the world. So appreciate you all in the chat, though. And Boom, keep doing your thing, my man.
Thank you, brother. I super appreciate it. I mean, listen, I really enjoy this. I like writing. I like video editing. I like doing thumbnails. I like being in front of the camera. I like have the pressure of having to deliver 5 shows, and I have to make them different because, when you have syndicated programs, people are going to tune in. And if you're not talking the talk, people are going to walk away because they could find something else to watch. So we really appreciate it. But I like the pressure of having to deliver, and that's why I spend a lot of times not playing games like Resident Evil, which I really want to play. And I got to tell you, man, wow. I'll put it this way. If you are a Resident Evil fan like me, you don't got to be a fanboy, but if you played 1, you played 2, you played 3, there comes a point, no spoilers here, folks, where in the game, the homage, the Easter eggs, if you will, are so in your face that you're like, my God, Capcom really, really went for it, and they delivered. What a complete masterclass game. If I had to review it right now, it'd be a 12 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with this game. Literally, absolutely nothing wrong. It does everything. It's peak Capcom, and it is probably one of the best in the series. I will end today's show with that. I'm sorry for my Resident Evil rant. Go play that game. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. If you enjoyed it, the show, please hit the like button, share it on the socials. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so. But of course, I'm going to say a big thank you to all of the super chats, gifted subs, and generosity that continues to come in each and every show. And I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And it would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.